Hi, my name is Ricky, and today I'm going to go through all of the high school stats that helped me get into UCHICAGO, UCLA, UC Berkeley, University of Michigan, and a ton of other schools. Ever since I uploaded my previous video, which was me reacting to all the colleges I got accepted, waitlisted, and rejected from, I had a bunch of comments asking that I upload a stats video to give some further context on why I got in to some of the schools that I did get into. Just as a disclaimer, I am not an admissions officer, so I don't know exactly why I got into the schools that I did get into. So any advice that you see from me is purely just from my own experience and what worked for me. This doesn't mean that it will work for you or that it'll work for anyone else. College admissions is really a tricky game, and there's no one clear-cut path that anyone can take to get into a highly selective school. So in case you didn't watch my last video, I will put right here what schools I got into. So I mentioned my demographics in my previous video, but I want to say them again because they are pretty relevant. So I am a California resident. I am a first-generation college student. So what that means is neither my mom or my dad graduated from college. I attended a private Catholic high school in the North Bay area of California. Even though this was a private school, it wasn't like a feeder school by any means. I know there are a lot of private and even some public feeder schools for the Ivy Leagues and other top 20 colleges, but my school was not personally one of those. Now moving into my academic stats. For my class rank, my school didn't rank students, so I did not list my class rank on the Common App. However, for the UC application, I was identified as the UC ELC, which stands for eligibility in local context, which means you're in the top 9% of either the state or your graduating class. I'm not exactly sure. My unweighted high school GPA was a 3.9. It was technically a 4.0, but I took a summer class right after 8th grade and got a B plus in it, and that was on my transcript. But all of my other classes, I didn't get anything lower than an A minus in. So some schools, depending on how they calculated my GPA, it would have been a 4.0, but I still listed it as a 3.9. When I was applying to college, the weighted GPA that I put on my applications was a 4.34. So moving on to test scores, I applied as a test optional applicant. So I did not submit my SAT or ACT. I didn't actually take the SAT. I did take the ACT, but I did not feel confident with my score, so I chose not to submit it. As for AP classes, I technically took 9 APs throughout all of high school. Those were all split up between my junior and senior year. So I'm going to read off every single one of the AP classes that I took, and then all the scores I received if I end up taking that test. So for my junior year, I took AP Language, which I got a 3 on, AP Seminar, which I got a 3 on, AP US History, which I got a 3 on. And then for my first semester of senior year, I took AP Spanish, which I didn't take the AP test for. And then I took AP Microeconomics, which I got a 2 on. My second semester of senior year, I took AP Macroeconomics, which I also got a 2 on. And then for the full year of my senior year, I took AP Literature, which I got a 4 on, AP Research, which I also got a 4 on, and then AP Calculus AB, which I got a 1 on. So as you can probably tell, my test scores were not really competitive whatsoever. I didn't do absolutely terrible. Actually, on a lot of them, I did do pretty terribly, but they weren't competitive whatsoever. So I didn't submit any of my test scores to any of the colleges I applied to. And I think it's really important to note that college admissions is a really holistic process. So for me, I didn't have the stats that some of the other kids may have had, but say I kind of made up for that in my extracurriculars, and some other applicants may not have had as strong as extracurriculars, but had stronger test scores. So a lot of the times admissions readers will try and find ways to balance applicants out. Okay, for this next part, I'm just pulling up my Common App and I'm gonna read directly off of it. This next section was the honors and awards section. Like my test scores, my awards were not all that impressive. Like I definitely wasn't a national merit kid or had like any international or super prestigious nationally recognized awards. Most of my awards actually came from my school. So the award that I listed at the top was the AP Scholar Award, and this was a nationally recognized award. My next award was the Male Leadership Award that I got from my school. The next one was my high school's Dean's List, the Scholar Athlete Award that I got for my school. And I got 3 faculty selected department awards for public speaking, art, and Spanish too. So moving on to letters of recommendation, most schools only require that you get 1 teacher letter of recommendation. However, a lot of them suggest that you get 2. I had 2 of my teachers write me teacher letters of recommendation, and then my college counselor at school also wrote me a letter of recommendation, which is, I'm pretty sure, required for all schools. So I definitely think there's a bit of strategy when picking which teachers you want to write your teacher letters of recommendation. I went the route of having one teacher that I had a really good relationship with, and then the other teacher I also had a really good relationship with, but they taught in a subject that related to my intended major. Okay, now time for what I consider to be the most important and crucial part of your college application, the extracurricular and activity section. So I'm going to be reading once again right off of my Common App and starting at the very top. So on your Common App, you want to rank your extracurriculars from number 1 to number 10. You only get 10 spots. And your number 1 extracurricular should be the activity that you're most proud of and spend the most time doing. You want it to be something that's really kind of like a wow factor and to be something that you have the most passion in, and then continuing that trend all the way down until you get to number 10. And you don't have to fill up all 10 spaces on the Common application, only if you really have 10 things that you think are super crucial and vital to the application readers knowing about you. But you definitely want to go in descending order of most important to not least important, but less of the important. So my first activity was my slime business that I have outside of school. I'm going to read it just based off of the exact descriptions that I had on the Common App. So for the title, I put founder and CEO established 1/27/2017, RL Slimes, and RL Slimes is the name of my business. For the description, I said, I create and sell my own slime online in conventions and in local stores. I market with my Instagram and TikTok accounts, 300,000 followers combined. So my next activity that I put was my service project that I was doing outside of school, and I also linked it with research that I was doing with my service project. So for the title, I said Slime Volunteering and Research, the Slime Foundation, and the Slime Foundation was the name that I had for my service project. And for the description, I wrote, I provide slime to an elementary school for autism in my city. I teach how to use slime as a sensory tool and research the students' responses to it. My next activity was cross country. So for my title, I put cross country, varsity team captain, then my high school cross country. For the description, I wrote, selected as team captain by a team vote. I guide my teammates through warm-ups, practices, meets, and offer leadership and support to my teammates. So my next activity was track and field. For the title, I put track and field, varsity team captain, and then my high school track and field. For the description, I wrote, I was selected team captain junior year by my coach. I model leadership and specialize in long distance running. So my next activity was ASB. For my title, I wrote Vice President and Publicity Committee Chair, Associated Student Body, in parentheses ASB. And then for the description, I wrote, as VP, I plan and execute team bonding activities for ASB and act as ambassador for school events. I manage TikTok as co-publicity committee chair. My next activity was the junior class council that I was a part of. So for my title, I wrote Publicity Chair, Junior Class Council. And then I wrote for my description, as publicity leader, I ran our class's Instagram account, designing the graphics and producing engaging posts that provided school information. My next activity was Sophomore Class Council. You can see kind of a trend. For my title, I wrote Spirit, Publicity, Sophomore Class Council. For my description, I wrote, as part of Spirit/Publicity, I aided in rallies and fundraising. I designed and sold sweatshirts with profits used to help fund a school dance. My next activity was also a community service activity. I was a peer tutor at my high school. So for the title, I wrote peer tutoring, then my high school's name, peer tutoring program. For the description, I wrote, I was asked to join my school's peer tutoring program where I tutor students in Spanish, math, and English outside of school hours. The next activity I put was for a leadership conference that I was a part of, and the title wrote, Attendee, Hugh O'Brien Youth Leadership, in parentheses Hobie. This was the name of the program. And for the description, I wrote, I was selected by faculty to attend the Hobie conference where I expanded and honed my leadership skills. And then my final activity I put on the Common App, which wasn't really an activity, but I couldn't put it in the academic section. So my school counselor suggested that I put it in my activity section. And this was the Harvard pre-college program that I attended. So for the title, I wrote, Student, Harvard University pre-college program. And for the description, I wrote, I studied macroeconomics. My last project was on economic gaps for POC due to COVID. My professor wrote it was the best project he saw that summer. So those are all my activities that I wrote on my Common application, and then I put the exact same activities on my UC application, but just wrote a little bit longer descriptions because you're allotted more character space on the UC application. So the final section for my Common App that I'm going to go over is the additional information section. And I think that this section is definitely overlooked because it is very, very valuable. I know firsthand because UCHICAGO actually quoted some things from my additional information section that they wanted to highlight for some of the things that they liked about my application. So I know that schools are reading this part of the application. I definitely took full advantage of this section, and I think you definitely should too if you have things that you want to add to your application that don't really make sense in any of the other sections. So personally for me, what I chose to put into this section were a lot of articles that I was a part of or links to my social medias. I'll just go down the list of what the things I included were. So I included a link to an article that was written on me by Business Insider about how I was using TikTok as an e-commerce platform for my slime business. The next link that I included led to a video that Inside Edition did on me where they followed a day in my life as a teen entrepreneur, which also had to do with my slime business. The third link that I included was a link to an article that was written on a slime convention that I held locally called Sonoma Slime Fest, and it just goes into detail on my planning process and how the day unfolded. The next link that I included was a link to my Etsy shop where I sell the slime for my business online. And then the last two links that I included were the links to my Instagram and TikTok, which I mentioned in my activity section having 300,000 followers on them. So I just wanted them to be able to fact check that so they knew that I wasn't lying. So I want to give just some general advice for anyone that is a senior this year and is going to be applying to colleges. I think the most important thing when trying to craft your applications to these selective schools is that you have to have a cohesive theme that is prevalent through almost everything in your application. You don't want to go overkill with this theme, but you want it to be seen in every single thing that you put on your application, and you want the readers to see that you are meticulous about the things that you include in your application and that everything was strategically placed to help fit this theme. Now, this theme shouldn't be something that's like overly facetious and super fake by any means, but it should be something that is true to you. So for me, my theme was my slime business and entrepreneurship. I found ways to implement that in every single part of my application practically. So finding what that theme is to your application and trying to integrate it into every single spot that you can will be really, really beneficial and will show that you're not just some jack of all trades applicant, because these schools aren't really looking for that. They want to see someone who is almost an expert in something that they do and has so much specialization so that they can add a whole new perspective to their campus. Now, this also doesn't mean that versatility is a bad thing. You want to show that you're versatile. Like a lot of the stuff that I did didn't pertain to slime. Like I ran cross country and track and I did ASB. Neither one of those things relate to slime, but they're still things that I wanted to do. They don't all have to connect explicitly, but maybe they all have something underlying that is a reason why you are a part of all of them. So for cross country and track and ASB, I wanted to help grow in leadership. And that's something that I included in a lot of my essays. Having worked with a business and having employed people and put on big conventions, I've had to grow as a leader. So I wanted to find other ways to implement my leadership, which is why I did cross country and I did track and I did ASB. So finding ways to make everything make sense together is really, really important, and your application readers are going to love that stuff. So I plan on making another video dedicated to just essays. So I will show my personal statement, read that off to you. And then I also want to give just some general advice on all different types of essay topics that these colleges are giving. So I know there are a lot of strange topics, like the UCHICAGO Uncommon essay is a very strange essay topic, or there's actually many of those essay topics they have to choose from. And navigating those kind of weird, strange, really quirky topics can be really confusing. And then there's the really general YS essay that practically every school gives you. And it's really important to figure out how to master that essay. So I will try and give some of my advice on what I did and what worked for me in that video. So make sure to look out for that as well. So if you made it this far, thank you so much for watching this video. If you want to see any more college related content, definitely leave a comment and I will try my best to incorporate that into a new video. Like I said, I'll have a video coming up shortly about college essays, so look out for that. And in the meantime, definitely check out my other social medias because I'm posting a lot of college related content on there. So thank you so much, and hopefully I'll see you soon.